Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by my channel. My name is Mallory and I am a mom to a 2-month-old baby boy, a military wife, and a registered nurse. In this video, I am going to discuss with you guys how I am doing postpartum. So I did briefly touch on how I've been doing postpartum in Max's 1-month update, which you can find in the cards up above. But I did want to do a separate video just going into more detail because I didn't want to make that update super long, so I'm going to talk about it here. I'm also going to do a more detailed video on recovery from a C-section, like more of a how-to. If you know you're going to have a C-section, or if you end up with a C-section, I want to share kind of my tips and tricks for that. But in this one, I'm just going to talk about my actual experience. So overall, it was not terrible. I know that may sound shocking, but it was not a terrible experience. It was not what I originally wanted, but it was what was best. And I was not in a ton of pain. Now I was in some pain, of course, but I wasn't in a ton of pain. And I did have a lot of help. And so that made a huge difference because you really can't do a ton after a C-section. You are not as mobile as if you give vaginal birth. And so having help was really key for me. So especially those first few days in the hospital, that's where I had most of my pain. So that first, I gave birth on a Wednesday, like wee morning hours of a Wednesday. And later that day, I did get feeling back in my legs. So you're totally numb from like the waist down for a C-section. And I did eventually get feeling back into my legs and feet, which allowed me to get up and walk across the room. So they like to get you up out of bed as soon as you can because that speeds up healing. I never had to have narcotics. And I'm really glad because narcotics make me sick and I like to avoid them at all costs. So for that first day, for Wednesday, I still had my IV in and they gave me an NSAID through the IV during that day. And then after that, I just did prescription strength naproxen. So it was 500 milligrams twice a day. And I continued that after I came home and did not have to take the narcotic. I did need a lot of help with the baby at first. I did not change one diaper, I think, until Friday or maybe later on Thursday, but it was like almost 2 days before I changed his diaper. And like by that time, the meconium was mostly gone. So I did not have to deal with that mess. And so the nurses and my husband changed the diapers and swaddled him. And so that was great. It's really hard to lean over and grab the baby from his bassinet, whereas like if you had a vaginal birth, you could just, you're not constricted in your abdomen. When your abdomen muscles when you've been cut open in your stomach, it does restrict your movement. On Thursday, so the second day, the next day after birth, I got my urinary catheter out and was able to use the restroom, got my IV taken out because I was using the restroom. Oh, also later on Wednesday, I was totally fine with a clear liquid diet. I didn't have any nausea, and so I was allowed to go on a regular diet. So I was eating regularly, eating a lot. You're so hungry after you give birth and if you're breastfeeding. And so I was able to eat my normal diet, which was great. Like I said, it's hard to twist and turn with a C-section incision. It's also kind of impossible to bend down at first. Also, it really, really hurt to cough, sneeze, or even laugh. So that was really, I'm a very optimistic person. I like to laugh, and it was really hard to not be able to laugh because it made my incision hurt. I did take my first shower the day after giving birth on Thursday evening. I took a shower on Friday. Those first showers after postpartum are just wonderful. They're just so refreshing. And so I was able to do that on my own. I did not need any help. I was a lot more mobile on Friday. I still could not stand for very long periods of time, but I was able to get up more often and walk around the room and just be a little more myself. And then Saturday we were discharged. So again, I was able to get up and get into the car and get out of the car. Looks like he's up. Hold on a second. Okay, so I came home on a Saturday, so I was in the hospital from Wednesday through Saturday. We actually came back to our hotel that we had been living in before moving into our house, and that's a whole saga. It's part of my birth story, or Max's birth story, so you can go check it out in the cards up above if you want to know more about that and why we were living in a hotel and why we brought a newborn back to a hotel. But anyway, once we moved into the house, we do have a 2-story house, and that means going up and down stairs. And so I would really try to limit my going up and down stairs to maybe a couple times a day. It was sometimes hard to do that, but with a lot of help, it made it more feasible. And so I would just really try to come up here, you know, very, very rarely, only when I absolutely needed to. And after a while, you know, it got a little easier. But at first, it's like you really have to do one step at a time, literally one step at a time. At 2 weeks postpartum, I had an incision check. It was really fast, literally just looking at my incision. It was a bit red and a little bit swollen on the right side. I don't know why that side was having more problems healing, and that is where I did have most of my pain. When I would have incision pain, it would like kind of rub against my waistline of my pants and just be uncomfortable and kind of painful, but my doctor wasn't worried about it. And then over time it started looking better, and at my 6-week postpartum appointment it was looking a lot better, and he said everything was great and sent me on my merry way. Overall, my recovery has been really great, especially physically. I've done really, really well. Like I've said in other videos, I wouldn't just go out and get a C-section just to have a C-section. I definitely would only do one if it's medically warranted, which mine was. But since I had that experience, it's been a really good experience physically. Emotionally and mentally has been a little harder for me, I think. That first month, I actually felt pretty good. The biggest thing is that sometimes at night, I would just feel sad, but I almost never cried. You know, you hear of people crying a lot and the baby blues, you know, when you have the baby blues and immediate postpartum time, but I don't know if it was I was just too tired to cry, but I really didn't have any huge emotional breakdowns in that first month. I think because my parents were here, and so they were here with me and Max during the day while my husband was at school. He's doing a master's program with the military, and so they would be here during the day. My husband would have our car, but then if I needed to go out and do stuff, my parents would take me and Max. It was just really nice having my parents here, like as companions, to help us set up our home and just to be here and just for moral support. And that was really good for me mentally and emotionally. And that first week after they left was really tough for me emotionally. I did have several crying episodes, and that's no fun, where you just feel really low and sad and overwhelmed and alone, even though you're not alone. You know, you have your husband and you have your baby, but at that time I hadn't really made any friends yet. I since have made one friend, which really helps, getting out and just like walking outside and going to the playground with their little boy. But at that time I wasn't like getting together with her at that point, and so it was just kind of isolating. And I know that a lot of moms can relate to that. You know, even though, yeah, you have your husband, you have your baby, you still feel alone. So I definitely, you know, I've had moments of feeling depressed, but I don't think I am depressed. I actually scored an 8 on the postpartum depression screening. So that's low. You know, I think it's a 10. You have to score at least a 10 in order to be considered at risk for postpartum depression. So I scored an 8, which is kind of close, but not quite. So I'm not depressed, but what I have struggled with a lot is anxiety. And I did struggle with anxiety before becoming pregnant. I have a history of panic attacks, like situational panic attacks, like with test taking. Specifically when I was in nursing school, I would get legit panic attacks during exams. So I do have a history of that. So if you have a history of anxiety, you are more likely to you're at a higher risk for postpartum anxiety. Just like if you have depression before pregnancy, then you have a higher risk of postpartum depression. I know. He's really starting to talk. It's really cool. And so I do think, I mean, I haven't been diagnosed with it, but I have shown signs, according to my best judgment. I am a nurse, so I am familiar with these kind of things from an objective perspective. I have shown some signs of postpartum anxiety and postpartum OCD, which is OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. I have shown signs of those things. Again, I have not been diagnosed with these things, but just the anxiety at times has been through the roof. My biggest worry has been about his breathing. Now, he is at very low risk for any type of breathing problem. He is very healthy. He hasn't had any problems, but I think it's just this worry, this fear that one day I'm going to check on him sleeping and he won't be breathing, because you hear these stories of SIDS happening, sudden infant death syndrome, and you just are scared that it's going to happen to your baby, even if you have a very healthy baby. Especially at first, I would really obsessively check his breathing. So I would go in, look at him in his bassinet. He'd be lying there swaddled, and I would watch him sleep and watch him breathing, and I would see his little chest going up and down, but it's kind of like I didn't believe that I was actually seeing him breathe, because I would have to continue watching him, because I would kind of subconsciously think, what if I just imagined him breathing and he's not actually breathing and I'm just imagining it? So I would have to like stand there longer to watch him breathe and like get to a place somehow in my mind that, okay, it's fine, I can walk away. That is a little bit of indicative of postpartum OCD. Also, something else that I have struggled with is having intrusive thoughts. Postpartum OCD is kind of like a subset of postpartum anxiety, and I will post I will link to a YouTube video in the description box, a video that I found really helpful. It's from a mental health professional, and she's talking about postpartum anxiety and OCD, and I was watching that video and going, yep, I totally know firsthand what she's talking about, and it helped me not feel so crazy, because you get these thoughts, intrusive thoughts of horrible things that could happen to him, and some of them are very irrational. Like, some of them are things that just would not happen. They do sound very crazy, but one of the indications of postpartum OCD that differentiates it from postpartum psychosis, which is an emergency. Postpartum psychosis is where you are basically having these delusions about yourself and your baby, and like you're gonna harm your baby, and like you think it's okay. That is really bad, obviously, and that's an emergency. Postpartum OCD is where you might get thoughts of bad things that could happen to your baby, but you are terrified by them. You are horrified by them, and you do everything in your power to make sure they don't come to pass. So she talks about that in that video below that I referenced. That is a key difference. So like, if you're having these intrusive thoughts and they're scaring you, that's a good thing. That's a good thing if they're scaring you, because that means it's not postpartum psychosis, it's more anxiety OCD. So, you know, weird worries about, what if this knife in the kitchen somehow stabs him, or what if I trip going down the stairs when I'm holding him, what if the car seat is not secured properly and I get in a car accident and then he is hurt or killed and it's my fault because I didn't triple check, you know, I didn't obsessively check the car seat. Things like that. Things that you should do. Like, you should make sure that your child is secure in their car seat and that you're being careful going down the stairs and all these things, but it's at a different level. It's at an obsessive level, and, you know, or questioning, like, is he actually in the back seat? Did I forget him in the house, even though clearly he's back there, but you're still questioning, like, oh no, did I forget him? Things like that. And in a pregnancy group that I'm in, somebody else posted about having intrusive thoughts postpartum. And I was like, yes, I get that too. And there was other women saying the same thing. And so it's nice to know, like, if you're having these intrusive thoughts of horrible things that could happen to your child and you're just terrified of them happening, that you're not alone, and you're not the only one having these very bizarre worries. Because again, they're not rational, but you kind of can't help but worry about them. Anyway, I have definitely dealt with that. It has been better recently, like maybe the past week has been a lot better. We did, and I think something that has contributed to that, to feeling better, especially not worrying so much about him breathing, is we purchased the Owlet. Yes, we shelled out the money for that expensive little device that goes on their foot and monitors the baby's oxygen levels and their heart rate. And I hemmed and hawed about this, and my husband was like, you really should get it. It'll really help you. And it really has. So I'm actually going to do a video, an unboxing video of that, and I will let you guys know what my thoughts are on it. So far, I love it. It hasn't given any false readings, and it's just been great. And it's just so reassuring to be able to look at the base station and see the green light, or go onto the app and see his O2 levels and his heart rate and know that he's perfectly fine. Because we do have a baby monitor, and before we got the Owlet, I still would worry about him, even being able to visualize him on the monitor. I would still worry, like, is his swaddle choking him? Is he breathing? Because you can't really see if he's breathing through the monitor. I would still worry about him, even though I could see him. Like, I would only feel okay if I could have eyes on him, and you can't be running up and down the stairs all evening or all day to check on your baby. It's just not realistic. So the Owlet has really helped with that obsessive worry. So I really like it. So that is pretty much it. I mean, overall, yeah, we're about 2 months postpartum. Actually, the day I'm filming this, he is 8 weeks old. So it's been 8 weeks since he was born. And really, overall, we're doing pretty well. You know, some days are better than others. I had a really, really low day, and usually it happens at night that I feel really low, but it's like those things are not constant. It's just kind of these dips and, you know, ebbs and flows of my emotions. So that is normal because your hormones are just at a really low place postpartum. But definitely, you know, if you are struggling, using this as a PSA, if you are struggling, you feel really depressed all the time and you just can't function, or intrusive thoughts or anxiety is getting in the way of living, like, definitely talk with somebody. So I think that's pretty much it. This was a little bit of a rambly video, but I just wanted to update you guys on how I'm doing, and I want to give other moms out there encouragement that if you are feeling this way, like you're having a lot of anxiety or intrusive thoughts, or you feel really alone, that you're not alone, and there's others of us, even though we may not know each other in real life. I know what you're going through, if that's what you're going through, and leave your comments below, and just in solidarity for other moms that have a newborn and are riding that postpartum roller coaster and just maybe struggling. So I really appreciate y'all's support and just being with me in this journey, and stay tuned for more videos. I will keep putting out content. I really love doing YouTube. Is something that brings me a lot of delight. I really love doing YouTube. It's really a highlight of my day when I get to film and even edit. I really enjoy editing videos and just putting out content for you guys. I love creating. It is a highlight of my day, so definitely also find something that you love to do and do that often. So until next time, take care, everybody. Bye. Max says bye-bye.